All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for attending one of our last afternoon sessions for Premier. After this, we'll have some optional Zoom through BU tours if you'd like to get a virtual view of campus. I will say it's a beautiful day in Waco today, so if you have to do a Zoom tour, today's a good day to do it. Today, David, my colleague, is going to give you some great information about admissions, about Baylor, and about how to finance your Baylor education. I'm Jordan. I'm also an admissions counselor here at Baylor. I'll be helping out in the chat. So please use the Q&A function throughout the presentation. Instead of the chat, I'll be answering throughout the presentation and then after David saving some time at the end for questions as well. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to one of our amazing admissions counselors, David Humphrey.
All right, thank you, Jordan. And so each of us as admissions counselors do cover specific geographic territories. Jordan covers the great state of Oklahoma, portions of the American Northeast. So if you're from any of those areas, Jordan may be your counselor. I specifically cover the Houston South region. So if you are from the excellent city of Houston and you live south of Interstate 10, then that would be my area. So glad to meet all of you though, and happy to share some information about Baylor today. I graduated from Baylor in May of 2019, and something that is just really symbolic about my Baylor experience is that Baylor was a place that I could really call my home. And that's may sound a little cheesy, but ultimately we do think that that's something that's important as part of the overall process when you're making your decision for college. You obviously want to find a place you're going to get that great academic experience, place you're going to get excellent student life opportunities and things like that. So you can grow throughout those years in college, but ultimately also a place that you'll want to feel comfortable in calling your home for those 4 years. That was something that I felt from the very beginning, ever since I visited campus as a senior in high school, and it has really stuck with me ever since. I've been working as an admissions here at Baylor for the last 2.5 years. So getting to share about Baylor and help students as they kind of look throughout that process is really meaningful to me. So I'm excited to get to share about that home with you today. We will start by talking about the academic experience at Baylor. And we truly believe that students have the opportunity to thrive in what we consider to be the ideal academic setting. A lot of that will start at the micro level. So you'll have an average class size at Baylor of 26 students, as well as a 15-to-1 student to faculty ratio. What this means is that the majority of your classes will be much more conversational in nature, as opposed to listening to one person talk and you writing notes furiously for the class session. You'll be able to engage in dialogue with your fellow classmates and professors. Those professors, they can be excellent resources for you throughout your years at Baylor and beyond. The professors at Baylor truly care about Baylor students. That's why they are here to choose to kind of help out in raising that next generation of experts in their respective fields. So our professors are extremely accessible to students. They'll have as many office hours as they have classroom hours. So you can get to meet with your professors outside of the classroom setting as well to go over a quiz or tests, get to know them, just kind of have those opportunities for both professional and personal growth as well. Now, at Baylor, we do offer an abundance of areas to study. It's one of the many benefits of our medium size as an institution is that you get to have a lot of the things you'll see at larger institutions, things like Division I athletics, a variety of student traditions, activities, and organizations to choose from, as well as a wide range of different academic programs to choose from, while still growing through that smaller size, like I mentioned. And hopefully y'all have been able to partake in some of the academic sessions earlier this morning. If you didn't, we will have some recordings to share with you afterwards. But wide range of different academic majors for students to choose from. Our largest major on campus is biology. A lot of students will choose to study that if they're interested in going on the pre-med route. We have a 73% acceptance rate into med school. So definitely some strong resources to help students get onto that next level. Some of our other popular programs will be within business, accounting, for our second and third largest majors on campus than the business. So some great options along those lines. We have an excellent engineering and computer science department, which offers mechanical, electrical, and computer engineering, biomedical, geopetro, humanitarian, and environmental engineering, as well as computer science, data sciences. And so that's definitely a great program for students to look into. We have an excellent school of education, school of communication, nursing, all sorts of options across the arts, humanities, and sciences. So odds are we're going to have an area that is of interest to you. So we definitely encourage you to look into those different areas. We are also a top tier research institution. As of this past December, we've been granted R1 status or Research 1 status by the Carnegie Institute. Nationwide, they rank universities kind of based on their aptitude for providing research opportunities for their students, both undergraduate and graduate. And so that's something that's really special. Baylor, we're the second private school in the state of Texas, only the 8th private school in a conference across the nation to have this status. And so it really just translates into the amount of research opportunities that are already available at Baylor and will continue to become available in even higher volume throughout the next few years as we kind of grow into this status. So all that to say, there's plenty of great ways to grow academically throughout your years at Baylor. But as I'm sure you know, your experience at college is about more than just what goes on within the classroom environment. It's about being a part of the overall university community as well. And at Baylor, a lot of this student experience takes place in the form of different Baylor traditions. Baylor's been around since 1845, so actually older than the state of Texas itself. You don't get to be that old without picking up a few traditions along the way. On the left there, you can see a couple of students enjoying some Dr. Pepper floats. Dr. Pepper Hour is a big tradition on campus every Tuesday afternoon where we'll hand out free Dr. Pepper floats in the Student Union building from 3 to 4 p.m. Dr. Pepper was, of course, invented in Waco, Texas, and so it has a large presence on our campus, and our Dr. Pepper floats are a delicious combination of Dr. Pepper and Bluebell ice cream, which any good Texan will tell you is the best ice cream in the world. So that's always a lot of fun to get to enjoy that tradition. We'll have traditions like our All University Sing, where different student organizations will put on 8-minute musical medley acts each spring. And then the top organizations from the competition in the spring will get to perform at our university homecoming in the fall. Baylor was actually the first university in the nation to have a homecoming celebration. So that's a really special tradition on our campus as well. But again, we could go on for hours talking about all the different great Baylor traditions. If you do get the chance to come visit our campus, I definitely encourage reaching out to one of our current students just because they can kind of share what their favorite traditions and experiences are as well. And I would definitely encourage you again to come visit campus because you'll get to feel a lot more for the community that we offer on our campus itself. You'll find Baylor's community to be one that is extremely meaningful. That there's a few different factors that play into what that looks like for us as an institution. One is that we are an unapologetically Christian institution. This was true of us in our founding in 1845 and is still true today. This makes up kind of a big part of who Baylor is and always has been as a university. But that being said, not all students need to be Christian in order to come to Baylor. Our commitment as a Christian university is to help raise the next generation of leaders for worldwide leadership and service. And so with that, our university mission is to do the best that we can to care deeply for each and all of our students on every level. And part of that is honoring and embracing diversity in a variety of different ways. We'll have students who will come from all sorts of different geographic backgrounds, ethnic, cultural, religious, non-religious backgrounds. And students are really able to find their home at Baylor, regardless of just kind of the different things that they have experienced throughout their own worldview up until this point. So that's really something that's important. Baylor and some of the great ways you can learn and grow through the Baylor community is through our student organizations. We have over 350 student organizations to choose from, including 40 cultural organizations. So there's great ways to kind of learn and embrace your own culture and learn about other cultures on our campus as well. I highly recommend getting involved in student organizations, whether you come to Baylor or not, wherever you go to college. It can be one of the greatest ways for you to grow throughout those years at your institution and form those lifelong relationships. We'll have everything you can think of at Baylor, from the Ballroom Dance Society to the Wakeboarding Club, with all sorts of academic, special interests, Greek life, multicultural, fine arts, athletic, every kind of organization you could think of in between. I'd really say that our student organizations make up the lifeblood and heartbeat of that campus community. So now that y'all heard about what it's kind of like to be a Baylor Bear, I'm sure you're itching to learn what it takes to become a Baylor Bear. We're happy to kind of break down that application process to you in some simple steps. Now, the first thing that is the most important to consider that you actually won't see on this screen is that our application is free. So you don't need to worry about an application fee or anything like that. It's able to apply to Baylor, and definitely since you don't have to worry about putting any money down, we definitely encourage you to Baylor if you're at all interested in our institution. Your application will be available through 3 different online portals: the Go Baylor web app, the Common App, and the Go Apply Texas application. So whichever one of those 3 you would prefer, you can send that into us. The application will open up August 1st before your senior years. I know we've got a lot of juniors in the chat probably. That's kind of what you would be looking to over the next few months, kind of gearing up for that application process. We do have 2 admissions deadlines. We have the November 1st deadline, which offers an early action and early decision 1 plan. It's a non-binding and a binding option. We also have February 1st, which will offer a regular admission and an early decision 2 plan. I'll break down kind of those plans in just a minute here. Once you submit your application, you will be able to create a Go Baylor account. Go Baylor is your online portal where you're able to view your application status, a checklist of any items you need to submit, and it's also where you'll receive your admissions decision and some helpful next steps after the fact. You'll be able to see the required items that you need to submit through there. Now at Baylor, we will be test optional for at least the next academic year. So for current juniors, you will be able to choose whether or not you want to send in those ACT, SAT scores. Generally, if you're trying to make this decision, we'll recommend that our average accepted student who applies with test scores will score between a 26 to a 31 on the ACT, or a 1210 to a 1350 on the SAT. So if you have a score within, near, or above that range, that can be a great thing to include as part of your application. If you do not, we know that could be due to a number of different factors. So we don't want that to limit you through the application. So you can choose to go to test optional along that path as well. We will require a high school transcript regardless, showing your 9th, 10th, and 11th grade results, as well as an application essay, just an opportunity for you to get to show off some of your writing and share a story about yourself. Now, those are all the only required items in order to complete your application to Baylor. So again, submitting that free application, setting up your Go Baylor account, sending in that transcript, essay, and optional test scores. That's all you need to get a check on your application to Baylor. But at Baylor, we do utilize a holistic review where we look at all items sent in through the application process. So that's where we would definitely recommend sending in the additional recommended items, which include a resume, short answer, and 2 letters of recommendation. These can kind of help us as we review students just overall for their connection and interest in the Baylor community. So we do, like I mentioned, have a couple of different application deadlines. So the first will be November 1st, and at that deadline, we'll have 2 decision plans. We'll have early decision 1 and early actions. So early decision 1 is a binding plan. Maybe you've been wearing green and gold since you were in diapers, or maybe you've just kind of found over the last few years, definitely see yourself at Baylor. If this is kind of the camp that you're in and you know that Baylor is where you want to be for college, you can choose to apply early decision 1, where you'll sign a statement saying, if I am accepted to the university, I will attend the university. And we do know that that's kind of a binding commitment to make. That's not something we want students to take lightly, but for students who apply through one of our binding plans, you're guaranteed to hear back earlier than any of the other admissions plans. So students who apply November 1st, early decision 1, are guaranteed to hear back no later than December 15th. Now, maybe Baylor is a top option for you. Definitely you want to be considered early on throughout that process, but you're not ready to make that binding decision. That's where early action can be a great option as well. You'll still apply by the November 1st deadline, and you're guaranteed to hear back no later than January 15th. Now, we do recommend applying at either early decision 1 or early action, just because historically a majority of our accepted students will be accepted through that November 1st deadline. So if you're a junior and you're kind of gearing up for this process, keep that November 1st in mind. We definitely recommend applying by that date. But if you do miss that date, we'll have a couple of additional options for you at the February 1st deadline. A second round of early decision 2, another binding option for students to be reviewed, where you'll hear back no later than March 1st, and then also regular admission at the February 1st deadline, where you're guaranteed to hear back no later than April 10th. Now at Baylor, we do know that, and kind of to address the elephant in the room, private school tuition can be a little bit higher than what you might see at some other institutions. And we're aware of that and are happy to provide resources for students to kind of address that throughout your time at Baylor. So generally the full sticker price of a calendar year at Baylor sits at about $64,000 to $65,000, including your tuition, room, and board. Now that is a very high number, like I mentioned. What you need to know is that it is very rare that a student or family will be paying anywhere close to that full amount, just because we do review students generously for financial aid from a need-based perspective, or from a merit-based and need-based perspective. So I'm happy to kind of share a little bit about that with you today. We will review students for need-based aid by submitting the FAFSA, which can be reviewed to consider students for federal need-based aid. This will be an application that will be available for you to submit starting October 1st of your senior year. I will generally recommend submitting the FAFSA along the same timeline as submitting your applications, either November 1st or February 1st. And so that's one application that we'll use to review students for financial aid at Baylor. We'll also recommend submitting the CSS profile. CSS is an application that we use at Baylor to review students specifically for institutional aid coming directly from Baylor University. So if you're wanting to be considered for the highest amount of aid possible, we do recommend submitting both of these applications by by around that same timeline as your application timeframe, so November 1st or February 1st. And now it's also important to keep in mind that throughout the application process, there can be some just kind of hangups or things that might delay your aid package. And so in order to avoid that, we definitely recommend staying on top of this and just kind of checking in on your Go Baylor account with your Baylor communications throughout your senior year. So sometimes by submitting the FAFSA and CSS, there will be some verification or conflicting information that needs to be corrected. So that's a portal that you'll have access to upon your acceptance to Baylor. And so that's something you would be able to go in and correct. And then you also perhaps may have some special circumstances that you want to be reviewed, especially within the last couple of years of pandemic. We know that that can affect your finances and things like that. And so with the CSS and FAFSA, sometimes relying on prior year finances, we know that that might not give the full picture. And so the special circumstances and appeals options can make sure that we can review you for an appropriate and accurate amount of aid, just kind of based on your family's financial situation. We do, like I mentioned, have a number of different types of financial aid, especially on the scholarship side of things you might be interested in. So we will review all of our students automatically for an academic scholarship just based on your acceptance to the university. And so that's something that you will hear back on a date after your acceptance to Baylor. There are also specialty and departmental scholarships that you can apply for. Many of these particularly are reserved for students after their freshman year. So there's many ways to kind of lower your costs at Baylor throughout your time at the institution. We'll offer some great resources for outside scholarships. One that's not mentioned on this page is our Imagine Scholarships app, which we subsidize the cost for students to utilize once they're accepted to Baylor. It provides a great resource database for different scholarships you can look into for outside scholarships and aid. And there's some Baylor incentives for applying to a certain amount of Imagine scholarships as well. Like I mentioned, we will review students for federal and state student aid, grants, work study, and federal loans. That'll be reviewed through your FAFSA. And then we'll also review students for institutional aid through the CSS profile. We've also got some good information on alternative loans and loan counseling through our financial aid office. So we definitely encourage you to reach out to them. But there are a number of resources that can be available to you just kind of throughout the application process when it comes to subsidizing those costs for Baylor. And so this is a good slide that if you want, you can just kind of take a picture here and look at all of these different resources. I'll kind of take a pause here so you can take a picture and just look at the different options that are available here. And we'll move on. We also have some additional scholarship programs that can be great opportunities for students to be reviewed for additional aid and also to get to learn about some different opportunities on our campus. So these you can apply for during your senior year of high school. Generally, September 1st is when these applications will open up. Our Distinguished Scholar Day and Invitation to Excellence events are hosted by individual academic departments. They will generally include either a virtual or in-person visit of campus where you get to meet with an academic department, chat with them about what it looks like to be a student in that program. And based off of your interactions for the day and an essay that you'll write, you can be considered for a $3,000 scholarship through the Distinguished Scholars Day or a full tuition scholarship through Invitation to Excellence. So definitely some excellent programs to look into through there. We also have our Baylor Squared programs. These are partnership programs with different graduate schools we have connections with across the state of Texas. So we have 3 of these. We have the Baylor Squared Medical Program, Baylor Squared Law, and Baylor Squared Seminary programs. By applying to these programs your senior year of high school, you can be considered for conditional acceptance into the Baylor College of Medicine in Houston or the Baylor Law or Seminary schools on campus in Waco. So definitely really great opportunities for students to look into if you're interested in going on into any of those fields. Then finally, we also have the Getterman Scholars Program, an excellent scholarship opportunity specifically for students who are interested in our honors college at Baylor. And then finally, we'll also kind of give you an idea of the financial aid timeline at the institution. So again, on October 1st is when your FAFSA and CSS profile will open up. We'll recommend submitting those by November 1st or February 1st, just kind of depending on the application deadline that you select. And then for early decision 1 students, you'll receive your award notifications no later than January 15th. For early action students, you'll hear back no later than February 1st, which will also be the priority deadline for early decision 2 and regular admission students to submit that FAFSA and CSS. For early decision 2 students, you'll hear back on your award notification by March 15th. Regular admission students, you'll hear back on award notifications no later than April 10th. And we do also have some excellent programs that students can look into to kind of take some classes and get ahead at Baylor. And so our Summer of Discovery and Accelerate programs are specifically courses or programs available for you to take online courses that will generally be kind of at the introductory level that can help you to get some of those prerequisite credits out of the way so you can maybe get into some more upper level or advanced courses at Baylor or possibly graduate early as well. So Accelerate is open to current high school students. So if you're a sophomore, junior, senior even, that you want to take some online courses, you do that through Accelerate. Our Summer of Discovery is for incoming freshmen. So if you're an accepted senior, this is an option you could look into to take some courses at a highly discounted rate in the summer leading up to your senior year. So if you have any questions about this, we definitely encourage you to reach out to your admissions counselor. And really, we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have as well. So this is another good slide to take a picture of. You can just see our website, baylor.edu/admissions. Feel free to call our office, 254-710-3435 between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Central Time. You can follow us on social media, email us at admissions@baylor.edu, and you can find your specific admissions counselor by going to baylor.edu/meet. So again, thank you all for being here this afternoon with us. I'll go ahead and we can stop sharing screen, and we're happy to answer any questions that you've got through the chat or Q&A. Looks like Jordan's done a good job of answering some of those through the Q&A, but if y'all have any other questions, feel free to share those with us. We've got a few minutes here.
And I did want to pop back over to this slide. I know someone said that they needed a picture of it, so we're going to pause here for just a little bit and feel free to ask your questions.
All right, looks like we had a question on how the Accelerate program works. So it is available for students to take classes during one of your semesters as a high school student. So generally you would want to reach out to your high school counselor, just kind of see how this would work with your coursework, but it works kind of like any other dual enrollment course you would take in high school. It would be online instruction with a Baylor professor that you would be able to take some certain courses along those lines and receive Baylor credit that could also transfer into other institutions. If you're interested in this, we definitely encourage you to go to baylor.edu/accelerate to look into some more information. All right, some additional good questions. You find your scholarship/financial aid with acceptance letters. So that is a good question. It will actually be along those timelines that I mentioned. So for early decision 1 students, you'll hear back on your scholarship financial aid by January 15th. For early action students, you'll hear back by February 1st. For early decision 2, it'll be by March 15th. And for regular decision, it will be by April 10th. So it is not at the same time as your acceptance, but it will be shortly thereafter. All right, for those competing for a faculty scholarship, what percentage of those students receive the scholarship? That's good questions. So the faculty scholarship is through our Invitation to Excellence program. It is fairly competitive. Generally, only about 2 to 3 students per academic session will receive one of those faculty scholarships. So you'll participate in an academic session at Invitation to Excellence and be able to can be considered for that scholarship along those lines. So it is a small amount, and they'll just kind of review that based off of the essay that you'll write and interactions you'll have through that session, but someone has to get it. One of my friends got it and really enjoyed his time at Baylor. And so it's a great opportunity for students to look into. Do you apply to or are invited to the honors program? That's a great question. You do apply. You can apply starting October 1st of your senior year of high school, and they utilize a rolling admissions process. So whenever you're ready to submit that honors application, you can do so. The Honors College at Baylor offers some great opportunities. So if you haven't gotten to yet, I definitely encourage you to look into those different opportunities at baylor.edu/honors. What is the admission requirement for SAT, ACT scores? So again, we utilize a holistic review, so there's not any automatic acceptances to Baylor, but generally for students applying with their test scores, we recommend about a 26 to 31 on the ACT or a 1210 to 1370 on the SAT. So again, we will be test optional for at least the next year. If you have a score within, near, or above that range, we would definitely recommend submitting in that test score, but it is not required along those lines. All right, student to teacher ratio. We've got a 15:1 student to faculty ratio. And so you get to know your professors really well, be able to learn through that smaller class setting. All right, and those were some excellent questions, y'all. So thank you again for being here for our Baylor virtual premiere. We will go ahead and close out, like Jordan mentioned. There's some Zoom through BU tours, so you can feel free to check those out this afternoon. But otherwise, please feel free to reach out to us with any other questions. Again, you can reach your specific admissions counselor by visiting baylor.edu/meet. But thank you again for being here, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Thank you so much, David. And thank you everyone for being here this afternoon. Hope you enjoy some of those Zoom through BU tours, and hopefully we'll see you on campus soon. Bye.